it's just a day-by-day kind of process of trying to put some bits and pieces back together. He was my best friend, and he was generous and kind and warm-hearted. Very gregarious, loved children. If we went to a restaurant, within a matter of minutes, it seemed like every kid in the restaurant was hanging around Stephen. He just was a very giving, loving person.
The memories Cynthia Armbruster has of her husband Stephen are still vivid, the good ones especially, but the tough ones too.
It was a horrible surprise because I had surgery for breast cancer in May and a lumpectomy, and then he was diagnosed in September. I never got to really process the breast cancer because we went right into, he was stage 4 when they caught it, so we had a lot to deal with that year.
Cynthia and Stephen met in Virginia, but were living in California when they received Stephen's diagnosis. With his children back east, Stephen wanted to come home.
We talked with his oncologist, and he basically said, if you're going to take him back there, you have to do it now.
That is when Cynthia and Stephen found Mary Washington Hospice.
Until you are in the position of having a loved one who is actively dying, you just don't really quite understand what it's like. And so having someone like hospice there to kind of walk us through it was very, very helpful.
The hospice team controlled Stephen's pain, made him as comfortable as possible, but did not forget that Cynthia was dealing with her own pain.
I'm recreating my entire identity. I've left my career, I've left my home, I've lost my husband, my friends are all back in California. So there's all of that. I'm grieving all of that. Without hospice saying to me, grieve the way you need to, I think I would have had some real emotional difficulties.
Now a hospice volunteer, Cynthia is using her experiences to help others going through what she's been through.
Hospice is not giving up. It's not about helping someone die, it's all about helping someone live.
When we receive a life-threatening diagnosis, I think for patients and for their families, it's a traumatic time in their lives. It's a time when they're looking at hope and what it means for them. It's a time when people think about quality of life and how they want to live.
And quality of life is at the heart of the mission at Mary Washington Hospice.
When someone begins to consider hospice care, it's really a discussion that we hope will happen with the person's physician.
It's very hard for patients to look ahead and face their own morbidity or mortality. But anytime you have a diagnosis that is deemed to be not curable, then you have to start thinking about what your long-term plans are and what your goals are.
I think the lion's share of the responsibility belongs to the physician. A physician should be proactively educating their patients about services that are available to them and that can be helpful to them.
If people are referred and enter into hospice care soon enough, they have often months to live in an active life before they die.
That it's not something that we just do to give up on the patient. Our patients still receive aggressive management of their symptoms, but it's just a different path that they take.
Too often referrals are made right at the end when someone is actively dying. And we say too often because that patient didn't get the benefit of what we really can provide best, which is really helping people kind of design their lives as they approach the end.
The focus, of course, is the patient and what the patient wants.
Mary Washington Hospice offers a variety of services to maintain that focus. Along with our medical director, who's certified in hospice and palliative care, our experienced staff of nurses, social workers, counselors, and volunteers make it their job to make the most of what time may be left for the patient.
We in hospice see it as being a gift and something profoundly positive and beautiful to be with people as they near the end of their lives.
I get called an angel a lot, and I think that's a very high honor. But it's not just me, it's all of us, it's the team. Hi, I'm Carol with Mary Washington Hospice. How are you today?
Good, good.
It takes a certain kind of person to be able to confront the hardest times in people's lives and join people on that part of their journey.
Are you having any pain anywhere?
Carol Hammond is a nurse with Mary Washington Hospice and is that kind of person.
What we're looking at is comfort care and quality of life. I basically get to know the family, let them know what I'm doing with the patient, and most of the time just take them step by step through the disease process and what's going on. If you're in pain, we're going to be sure your pain is managed. I also feed my patients at times, take them outside, sing with them, read to them, just hold their hands. Sleeping is okay. A lot of times we become part of their family. And I think that's one thing that's very important about hospice is a lot of times we get patients very late in the stage and we can't develop that rapport with the family or with the patient that we really need to make their ease from this world to the next comfortable for them. Our Father. I love letting them know that I'm there for them and I can take my time and listen to them and care for them and just be there for them.
I really don't want to say because I really didn't expect it, you know.
Mary Washington Hospice takes a holistic approach to patient care, meaning a patient is treated physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
I'm Bob Schultz. I'm a chaplain with Mary Washington Hospice. Sometimes there's the assumption that a chaplain's job is to always kind of go in there and talk about God, but our job is to find out what's important to people. There's an emotional challenge to this. After somebody's gotten a bad diagnosis, terminal diagnosis, people that come to visit are hesitant to talk about the diagnosis. They're hesitant to bring that up because they don't know if they're going to hurt someone's feelings. When I come in there, I talk about their terminal diagnosis. I talk about the things that they're going through, and they're able to talk to somebody about their greatest fear, and it's normalized. It's normal.
I never thought it would ever happen to me.
Yeah.
It always happens to somebody else. It never happens to me, but it happens to me now.
Spirituality is much more widely defined than sometimes we think. Spirituality can be whatever gives you meaning in life. And so we try to find out what it is that gives them meaning, what it is that gives them strength, and try to reinforce those things as they go through this journey. Part of what we do is to go in and just to appreciate people for who they are, love them, respect them. It's a tremendous honor for me to be able to be a part of those sacred moments.
It's been stressful. It's trying to work through it.
A family's pain and anxiety as a loved one nears the end of life is very real, and that is not lost on the team at Mary Washington Hospice.
You're talking about things that are very difficult to talk about, so you have to be able to approach your family in a very gentle and understanding way.
And that is just one way hospice social workers like Jennifer Moore fulfill the hospice mission of making sure a patient's final days are comfortable.
One way that I help to improve their quality of life is making sure that they have their affairs in order.
That requires working closely with the patient and the patient's family, discussing matters that they may not have even thought of.
We assist families with any financial need they may have, or if it's a funeral planning, we do anything that's non-medical. I encourage you to read this book. As a social worker, I come in and do my part to make sure, okay, the nurse is taking care of you with your physical pain. Now let's me as a social worker handle your emotional pain. Let's make sure you have everything you need done so that when you get to the end of your journey, you don't have to say, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. It's already been done. I feel my job was done when I get that patient or that family member to exhale and go, I finally got someone who understands what I'm going through. So to have that moment for a patient is very rewarding.
Whether it's sitting and reading to a patient or just giving a patient's family member a break from providing constant care, volunteers are a vital part of the Mary Washington Hospice mission.
Their willingness sometimes literally to sit by a bedside and hold someone's hand who is dealing with the reality of their illness and their end of life sounds simple, but it's also a profoundly caring gesture and tremendously meaningful to patients and families. Many of our volunteers are relatives, loved ones of people who've gone through our service.
Count Cynthia Armbrister among them. Both her father and husband, Stephen, received care from Mary Washington Hospice.
As a volunteer, I actually feel like I'm pretty uniquely suited to help people go through this. I've gone through it now with 2 family members, so I know what it feels like to be the other person watching a family member go through something like that.
Volunteers are just people with a heartfelt desire to help people as they approach end of life. We added complementary therapies to our treatment team. We have an art therapist and a music therapist, as well as a massage therapist. The role that they play is quite interesting and wonderful in terms of the positive feedback we've gotten from our patients and our families. What our therapists can do is help people find a way of expressing themselves and validating their experience through the arts.
Music therapy is just using music in a therapeutic manner to bring healing. Sometimes when you're not in control of anything else in your life, to be able to sit down at a xylophone and create something very beautiful, no strings attached, to create beauty in your life when everything else just doesn't seem very beautiful at the moment.
I really like spiritual music now. It gives me a sense of hope.
When I first meet a patient, what I'm looking for is not what I can do, but what the music can do. What I want to find out is how music can bring comfort to them, bring some completeness, some wholeness. I don't understand it. I don't have to understand it. I just get the joy of watching it and being part of that, and that's truly a gift when I get to see that.
My name's Heidi Alexander. I work as a massage therapist for hospice.
Where did you learn to do this, Heidi?
Oh, I went to school for massage. Just the contact of a human hand can make a big difference. You go into it with the knowledge that what's really wrong with them you can't fix. But what you can do is make them the best that they can be at the moment. Well, I'm going to have to do the other shoulder too. Some are there because they are just wound up tighter than a watch spring and they just need to relax as much as they can. Some patients are having trouble breathing, so I'll do work with them to help improve the quality of their breath. Some have edema, which is swelling in some of the extremities. I can help with that.
You're going to have me asleep.
Hey, that's allowed. Just knowing that they're calm enough that whatever might be going on around them or within them, that for a little while at least, it's not at the forefront. That's sort of why I do what I do.
Just feel free to draw whatever comes to mind. Different mediums can evoke different types of sensations and feelings, which has been proven through art therapy research. So you have a brother.
I do. His name is Andrew.
What I do is I use art supplies and creative forms of self-expression to help people process thoughts, feelings, and even physical sensations.
I just love the light coming through and I love the colors.
Frequently what will happen is in the process of creating something, a memory will be evoked by that creative process. That in turn may evoke verbal memories of, I remember when I was sewing this with my mom, or when we had this great Christmas tree.
I remember I used to always ask my mom if we could decorate that tree for Christmas.
We're not looking for the patient per se to say, this is exactly how I feel, this is how my pain is today, this is what's on my mind. We're looking for it through their creative processes. Not every hospice service offers that, so it's a unique resource that we can provide.
In terms of the response we get from patients, they describe a profound decrease in pain and anxiety. The level of joy that we see and that we hear from families afterwards is really palpable. The results of our incorporating massage and music therapy and art therapy have been extraordinary.
I'm not sure where he saw the beer, but he stopped. And in the midst of his illness, he wanted to recognize that I had not finished my own process with my breast cancer, and so he brought me a pink breast cancer beer.
As she remembers her life with husband Stephen, Cynthia Armbruster approaches her grief, as she puts it, one step at a time.
I do what's in front of me to do. At this point, it's more of a celebration of who he was and how our lives were together.
Grief can affect you in many different ways.
Mary Washington Hospice helped Cynthia deal with Stephen's loss through its variety of bereavement programs and support groups.
So we can express things just through face-to-face contact and sharing. Identify their feelings and reactions to their losses, to express them in a whole range of ways, finding their comfort zone around expression, and opportunities to share, which can be really an important part of the grief process, is finding a sense of community.
If you're feeling good, like, oh, should I be feeling this good?
In my experience, the Mary Washington grief counselors and bereavement counselors, they're able to identify with the humanity of the people they're caring for.
It's as if she died and left forever. I don't feel her presence or her spirit.
It's moving, it's emotional, it's the sort of thing that we don't often take time out of our day to think about or work towards.
We have a writing group that meets weekly where people can really come together in a safe place to write about their concerns, their memories, and share with other people.
I go on Fridays and we're given assignments, usually a topic, and then you write on it. And rather than critique or try to analyze someone else's writing, it's just more of a forum to express what's going on inside you.
Everyone grieves differently. With that in mind, our grief counselors reach out to bereaved family members to offer opportunities for counseling either on the telephone or face-to-face. In addition, Mary Washington Hospice has a variety of support groups to fit the needs of bereaved families or individuals. And the hospice team believes that grief has no clock. Therefore, it offers bereavement counseling for 13 months after the passing of a loved one, longer if needed.
When we think about 13 months follow-up, we're extending it beyond that significant first anniversary, taking a little further. The message is this takes more than a year. So often as we're grieving, we feel isolated. Many of us never felt this way before, and it's really foreign territory as we grieve. And when we can help people find a community of grievers, there's a sense of relief and often a sense of appreciation for ourselves.
I tell you got a wonderful house.
Mary Washington feels like a family. The hospice itself seems to relate to each other as a family, and so then when they're bringing you into the fold, you just feel that warmth and that support that you would from any large family.
All across the world we have people that die every day. There's a select percentage of people that know that the end is coming, and they are unfortunate in a way because of that knowledge, but at the same time they're fortunate to be able to take that time and do the things that they want to do or the things they need to do to help themselves and their family, and that's what's unique about hospice.
When we admit somebody to hospice, as I tell them, this isn't a death sentence. We're here to help you and give you the best quality of life for however long you have left.
You feel empowered by having the hospice team behind you because they can help you manage and get through it in such a way that your loved one gets absolutely the best care that they can. Hospice is not giving up, it's actually affirming life.
Our service is about coming to you and helping you really have the kind of end of life that you desire, and that one-on-one or person-to-person contact that really makes hospice what it is.
Mary Washington Hospice is a nonprofit hospice and doesn't refuse care to anyone. Donations are welcome to defray costs for uninsured or underinsured patients, specialized care such as art, music, and massage therapies, or specialized training for staff. By giving to Mary Washington Hospice, it helps us maintain the excellent service and creative care we provide on a daily basis. Thank you.